I'm Brian. Your mind is either in the past, worrying about the future, or distracted by noise. Napoleon Hill understood that power only exists in one place. This moment, right now. If you're not here, you're nowhere. Let's begin.
Welcome to today's talk. Let's begin. So here you are, another day on planet Earth. But stop for a moment and remember this. Never forget the gratitude. Approximately 160,000 people pass away every single day around the world. That is roughly one every second. That means waking up this morning was not a guarantee. It's a precious gift. Capture what life is truly about, live it fully, and never waste a moment being afraid. Here's a truth that I want to share with you today that completely shifted my perspective. How others see you is of no importance. How you see yourself is absolutely everything. People will always have opinions. They will look through their own lenses, their own experiences, and their own limitations. What they see is often a reflection of them, not you. But the conversation you have with yourself, the vision you hold of your own worth, your potential, and your light, that is what shapes your reality. When you see yourself as capable, worthy, and radiant, the world has no choice but to align with that energy. Your self-perception becomes your superpower. Today's gentle reminder: speak to yourself with kindness. View yourself with pride and grace. Define who you are, regardless of what anyone else says. The most important opinion about you is the one you hold in your own heart. See yourself as extraordinary, because you truly are. Days can pass fast. You may often feel a day has been wasted. So practice being in the moment. You have heard it said many times, but do you really grasp it? Let's dive into the true meaning. This may get heavy, but stay with me. There is a silent struggle, one that controls the lives of millions, yet few ever recognize it. It is not a lack of intelligence. It is not a lack of opportunity. It is not even a lack of ambition. It is something far more subtle and far more dangerous. It is the inability to be present. We live in a world that glorifies the future, a world that tells you, work harder now so you can live later. Sacrifice today for tomorrow. Plan everything, control everything, achieve everything. But in this endless pursuit, something is lost, something essential. You are taught to think ahead, but never taught to be here. And so your mind becomes divided. Part of you lives in memory, part of you lives in imagination, but almost none of you lives now. And here lies the great paradox of life. The past is gone. The future has not arrived. And yet, this moment is where all power exists. Everything you will ever become depends on what you do right now. But if your attention is scattered, your power is weakened. And if your power is weakened, your life becomes accidental instead of intentional. This is where transformation begins. From the moment you were born, you were conditioned to compare, conditioned to compete, conditioned to chase. You were taught to measure your worth by what you achieve, by what you accumulate, by how far ahead you are. But no one taught you how to master your mind. No one taught you that your greatest enemy is not outside of you. It is your own uncontrolled attention, because wherever your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is trapped in the past, you relive pain. If your attention is trapped in the future, you live in anxiety. And if your attention is never here, you never truly live. Understand this clearly. Success is not just about what you do. It is about how you think and where you place your awareness. The most powerful individuals in history were not simply intelligent. They were present. They saw clearly. They acted decisively. They moved without hesitation. Why? Because their minds were not divided. And a focused mind is an unstoppable force. There is a principle understood by the greatest achievers, yet ignored by the majority. It is this: whatever you give your full attention to, you master, not partially, not occasionally, but completely. Consider the artist. At first, every movement is forced, every action is calculated. The mind interferes, doubt appears, but through repetition, something changes. The thinking fades. The hesitation disappears. And suddenly there is no separation between the artist and the art. There is only flow. This is not talent. This is presence. And this same principle applies to every area of your life, your work, your relationships, your decisions, your future. When you are fully present, you operate at a level most people never reach, because while others are distracted, you are focused. While others hesitate, you act. And while others wait for the perfect moment, you create it. Most people believe that control comes from planning. They try to predict every outcome. They try to eliminate uncertainty. They try to guarantee success. But this is an illusion, because life does not unfold according to your plans. It unfolds according to your preparation in the present moment. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can control your response, and that response is determined by your level of awareness. When you are distracted, you react emotionally. When you are present, you respond intelligently, and this difference determines everything. So how do you begin? You begin by noticing. Notice how often your mind wanders. Notice how quickly it leaves the present. Notice the patterns, the distractions, the impulses, and instead of fighting them, observe them. Because awareness is the first step to control. Then return again and again and again. Return to your breath. Return to your body. Return to this moment. At first, it will feel difficult. Your mind will resist. It will wander. It will distract you. But this is the training, because every time you return, you strengthen your ability to control your attention. And once you control your attention, you control your life. Have you ever been somewhere, perhaps a holiday, an event, and on your return, you think and question, did I really make the most of it? The majority of people, being honest with themselves, would have to admit they did not. They were not truly in the moment. There is a power that most people overlook, not because it is hidden, but because it is too simple. It is the power of stillness. In a world addicted to noise, stillness feels uncomfortable. The mind searches for distraction. It craves stimulation. It fears silence. Why? Because in stillness, you are forced to face yourself. No distractions, no escape, no illusion. But understand this. Stillness is not emptiness. It is clarity. It is where confusion dissolves. It is where insight appears. And it is where true power is formed. The most decisive leaders, the most focused creators, the most successful individuals all share one habit. They create space to think, to observe, to be. Because without stillness, your mind becomes reactive, and a reactive mind is easily controlled. Attention is your most valuable asset, more valuable than time, more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, because what you give your attention to, you give your life to. And yet, most people surrender it freely to distractions, to negativity, to meaningless noise. They allow the world to decide what they focus on, but the disciplined individual does the opposite. They choose their focus. They direct their thoughts. They control their mental environment. This is not easy, but it is necessary, because without discipline, your attention becomes scattered, and a scattered mind produces scattered results. But a focused mind creates precision, power, momentum, and momentum changes everything. Emotion is not your enemy, but uncontrolled emotion is your greatest weakness. Most people are ruled by how they feel. If they feel motivated, they act. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel afraid, they hesitate. This is a dangerous way to live, because emotions are temporary. They shift, they fluctuate, they deceive. But principles remain constant. The disciplined mind does not ask, how do I feel? It asks, what must be done? And then it acts, regardless of emotion. This is control, not suppressing emotion, but rising above it, observing it, without being controlled by it, because the moment you allow emotion to dictate your actions, you surrender your power. Every life is defined by moments of decision, not once, not twice, but repeatedly, moments where you choose discipline or distraction, action or delay, growth or comfort. These moments are often small, so small you barely notice them, but over time they determine everything. Success is not one decision. Failure is not one mistake. They are patterns, patterns created in the present moment. And every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your identity. You become someone who acts, someone who executes, someone who follows through, and that identity becomes your destiny. Many people wait for motivation. They believe they must feel ready, feel inspired, feel driven before they begin, but this is a mistake. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It rises and falls, and if you depend on it, you will always be inconsistent. The truth is simple. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you begin, even without feeling ready, something shifts, energy builds, focus sharpens, momentum forms, and suddenly, what felt difficult becomes natural. So do not wait. Act, because action is the trigger for everything that follows. Every moment of presence builds upon the last. Every focused action, every disciplined choice, every intentional decision compounds over time. At first, the progress is invisible, small improvements, minor changes, subtle shifts, but then something happens. The results begin to accelerate. What once felt difficult becomes easy. What once felt slow becomes fast, and what once felt impossible becomes inevitable. This is the power of consistency, not intensity, not perfection, but consistency, because when you show up, fully present, day after day, you become unstoppable. At the end of it all, there is one truth that becomes undeniable. Life is not something you chase. It is something you experience. Not someday, not in the future, but now. And the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your attention. If your attention is scattered, your life feels empty. If your attention is focused, your life becomes meaningful. So the question is not, what will you achieve? The question is, how will you live this moment? Because this moment is your life. And if you master this moment, you master everything.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.